With us now, former North Dakota Democratic Senator Heidi Heitkamp, who is now director of the University of Chicago Institute of Politics. Tim Miller, host of the Bulwark podcast and former communications for Jeb Bush's 2016 campaign, and Eddie Glaude, James L.S. McDonnell, distinguished professor at Princeton University. So, Tim, how big of a political misstep was it to put this comedian on stage at Madison Square Garden for the Trump people?
Yeah, on one hand, it was a really serious mistake, and it provided an opportunity for the Harris campaign to drive a contrast with a key demographic of voters, Puerto Rican voters. And I go so far as to say that Trump himself gave, Trump's offensive just in his stump speech, right? Like Trump's usual stump speech has some pretty radical policies and radical views, but he didn't say anything new, right? Like had the event just been Trump at Madison Square Garden, I think that the coverage afterwards would have been much more positive for his campaign. So it was a big mistake to put this guy on stage. I will say, though, at the broadest from the broadest perspective, this comedian didn't say anything different from what Donald Trump himself has said, right? I mean, his joke, so-called joke, was that Puerto Rico is an island of garbage in the ocean. Well, Trump just the other week, when he wasn't joking, said that America is a garbage can for people all over the world. It's the same comment. It's the same observation. He's running on nativism. And so in some ways, while it might have been a tactical mistake, it wasn't a strategic separation from the campaign.
Yeah, but they've had to, as you say, I mean, just play defense, and it's been almost like a 24/7 coverage of this, and the people that are feeling hurt, slighted, insulted by this are far more than just Puerto Ricans. I'm just thinking, Tim, is it something that they should, you think, kind of tackle head on? But how do you do that when, as you say, the person at the top of the ticket is pretty much in, similarity with these comments in different versions?
Yeah, they can't take a tack on. I mean, Donald Trump Jr., the president's son, was sending out tweets about how great that comedian was after the event was over. So, no, they can't. And J.D. Vance had an event yesterday where he said people should stop being so offended about jokes or whatever. So they're all in on this, but it's of a piece with who Donald Trump has been ever since he came down the escalator in 2015. So, a different campaign would act differently, of course, and would try to distance themselves from somebody that was associated with the campaign that was advancing such noxious views. But Trump and Vance are going to go to the mat with this type of message.
And Heidi, meanwhile, Nikki Haley has endorsed Trump, as we know, but as part of NBC's Deciders Focus Group, we went back to some Haley voters to see how they feel in the final days of this election. Here's what some of them had to say about these racist comments at this rally on Sunday.
That is so typical of what I hear from them all the time, and why, as a Republican, I have become so upset, because this is not the Republican Party that I know.
I can't say that it would change my vote. I don't think there's any place for that in a political rally. I don't think there's a place for that anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, Senator, these folks say they're still torn about who they'll vote for. If they're still torn 7 days before the election after all of this, are they just unreachable?
Well, I mean, they're reachable for Kamala Harris, I think. And I think that, when you close a campaign, the main rule is do no harm. Guess what? He did harm. Whether you agree with whether this was a joke or not. But this is a huge opening for her to address those women you just heard who say, I don't want Donald Trump anymore in my life. I'm tired of waking up and seeing this. But I think it would be a mistake to continue to call it racist remarks. I think that the former president who talked about this as disrespectful is on the right track. And if I were Kamala Harris today, I would come out and talk about the economic contributions that Hispanic people have made in this country, how hard they work, and how it is just so inappropriate to not recognize their hard work, not recognize what they contribute to all of us, and that she will never disrespect a whole group of people. And I think that's really the message she should deliver today. But anybody who tells you that this won't have any effect, I think they're wrong. And I would point to Rick Scott, Rick Scott, who's in, a semi-tight Senate race in Florida. I don't think a lot of people think that, he's in grave danger. But I will tell you, he was quick on the mark to say, those don't reflect me. It's inappropriate. And if Trump doesn't address it today, it will be a big mistake, I think, for his campaign.
Yeah, and Eddie, turning now to the vice president's speech on the ellipse tonight, optics and messaging is so important. What do you see as a symbolism and the symbolism of her choosing the ellipse when 7 days from an election, the final message is one that they're trying to set in everybody's mind?
Well, first of all, it's good to see you, Jose. I think, first of all, you have
Likewise.
to bring top of mind the insurrection, the threat, the challenge to democracy that Donald Trump and his supporters present, to make that top of mind by being at the ellipse. I think this is really important. And then I think you transition from that to the conversation around freedoms, the freedom to choose, the freedom for the right to vote and the like. I think this is a perfect kind of staging to bring home the argument in so many ways. And I also think she has to make the case that freedom isn't just simply about a freedom to choose and free, but freedom also entails responsibility. And so we have the responsibility to make a choice in this moment. We don't need to deodorize what Donald Trump did. Call it racist. I think you should. We need to understand what was happening in Madison Square Garden. I think Tim and the senator are right in some regards, but I also think we need to be clear that he's also appealing to those low propensity white voters to turn out. He's giving them that red meat. We need to understand what's the engine, the motivation of Trumpism and how he's been able to do what he's done. So I think by having the speech at the ellipse, insurrection top of mind, freedom top of mind, freedom entails responsibility, and we have to make a choice at this moment, come November 5th.
And so, Eddie, I'm just curious, how do you explain things are apparently so close, 7 days from an election?
Jose, that bothers me deeply. It lets us know how deeply divided we are as a country. It reminds me, at least, of the ghosts that haunt this place, that the tragic choice from the very inception of the country that led to the Civil War that left over 600,000 people dead on the battlefield, that the unresolved efforts at genuinely building a multiracial democracy in the mid-20th century, that all of these issues still obtain, that there's this undertow, this barnacled underbelly, right? That defines our lives. And so I think it's close because, there's this tragic through line of American life. And so here we are once again, Jose, faced with the choice of what kind of country we will be.